This is Margaret in Windsor, and I've put on prior tapes, a lot of them, and on Facebook, um, the fact that I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in 41 and given the name of Peggy Ann Dempsey, and I married a Childers. Now then, I hope this can hear is something my sound's not very good on here. The point being that I put all this, and I showed my father's picture, and I found out my real name and about my kidnapping in '83 when I ran in a political campaign to replace Congressman Dr. Larry McDonald. Now, I had written about Larry McDonald, the Congressman Doctor, in a medical malpractice book, MD, A License to Kill. The Larry Flint, let me say, was in Lawrenceville, Georgia, while I was doing the book. He was on trial there. And the guy that shot him was programmed to shoot him, and also his attorney was killed, Flint's was. So he had a lot to say about Larry McDonald back then, too, and about the plane going down. Later, this is later when in '83, Larry McDonald's plane that he was on, the KAL Korean jet, en route from Juneau to Seoul, South Korea, went down in the ocean, and all aboard it died. And I became a candidate. But let me go back just a little. When I wrote the book, I got a letter from the U.S. Attorney on June the 23rd of '79, and it was from U.S. Attorney Harper. And in it said, national security involved ongoing investigation. Well, right after that, on April the 1st of '80, I was still full of antifreeze, and I should have died. And there's no way I can put all this on the tape, so I'll fast forward again to the fiasco and the illegal taking me over the state line back to Huntsville, where I worked for the district attorney there a few months later, and believe me, that was hell, because I had brain damage, my God. But the point is that I worked for Fred Simpson and passed a background check. So now that I'm going to go back to what I really wanted to put on this tape, and I hope I haven't lost you, because it's very important. What's happening now has been this has been going on for a long time. MK Ultra was brought before Congress in '53 because they're abusing mental health system and mind control being used. And the point here is it never stops. Your congressman, if they don't know what, and they do know what's going on, you should march, just like in the Trayvon Martin case. People got up and marched, and immediately you got the president, you got the U.S. Attorney, I believe the Attorney General, Holder, you had all their attention. And yet, something this important as mind control being used as a weapon, and I'm going to list over the time there were murders that were deliberately done in patterns. So you would think at a time all this would be exposed. But then in time, this takedown of agencies and change and all that. But when I'm going to address this as a mental, they're using the mental health. Really, they're using mind control and blaming it on mental health. And mind control is a murder weapon that's being used. And it's grown so much since I told about it. It's back to the Tesla files that were stolen back in '30, and the FBI have those files, okay? So now then, mind control is widespread. Edward Snowden only touched the surface of what NSA is doing in the United States. This is the United States, and the citizens here, for some reason, think they're above the law and that their government is going to protect them, so to hell with everybody else. Well, that's not the case. I'm going to insert this here. They've reported this, that in the near future, they're not going to need military, at least not very much, because they've got drones. Who do you think the drones are going to be turned on? But when I'm going to quote a mind control victim, and he's dead. He was put to death. Timothy McVeigh for the Oklahoma City bombing, and yes, that can be proven other than his word that the military put a chip up his buttocks. So there's a long list of them. John Lennon was murdered. Elvis Presley was murdered. I could go back over time, and I've turned this over to the media. The media is controlled by the Rockefellers and Rothschilds. And now then, I'm going to stop because I put this on tapes before. What if I don't know what people are thinking or not thinking. How do you prove it? Well, first of all, you got to address the fact that it's happening, mind control. It's not just my word. You can go to YouTube and get some very good tapes. Now you couldn't back when I was telling about it. What was going on when I started writing about mind control and the murders was that one of the doctors was cardiovascular, and he actually put a chip in a heart bypass, and this person was head of a huge corporation. So you can control his decision making, or anyone. You can modify their behavior, make them go out and kill. And this myth that you can't make people do what they don't want to do is a lie, a total lie. So you got the Tucson, Arizona, Gabby Gifford, those shootings. Well, you got a whole list of them. You've got the Columbine. You've got Sandy Hook, the young fellow that his father wished he had never been born, that killed his mother. This young fellow was totally undermined. Well, the ones I've listed. Aurora, Colorado. He's being treated. Holmes is being treated for mental illness, which is mind control. He's a victim. People hate him. He's locked away with psychotic drugs. People wake up. Psychiatrists who don't know the difference in mind control and mental health issues should be disbarred. It's medical malpractice and it's terrorism on their part to give someone drugs and say they're delusional when what's been used on them is mind control. Now then, so that I don't lose anyone here on a tape that's long and it's very important, your civil rights have been violated, first of all. Your right to freedom of speech, of thought, and everything. You don't know that you have been given mind control. It's done at a low level. I used to say like a dog whistle. He'd perk up his ear, but you can't hear that sound. This is what they've done. This is one of the ways. I don't know the other ways. You taught the Morse code without your knowledge. This has been going on so long, so far back. What if you woke up one day and you found out your child, your son or daughter, had been placed under mind control and his behavior modified, and you had taken him to a doctor who referred you to a psychiatrist, a child psychiatrist or a psychiatrist, who had diagnosed him as having mental disorders and put him on drugs and then later on psychotic drugs and had him come in for therapy and all this, when what has happened is he's been a mind control subject. And the only way you correct that is you stop the mind control. It has nothing to do with mental illness. It is the most gross civil rights violation. And then look at the psychiatrist or the therapist involved. You get into a whole line, and then your child is modified his behavior such as whoever is doing the mind control, whatever agency, MK Ultra, the FBI, is so now so used without your knowledge that even private detectives can use it. And one told me, a friend of mine that worked for the district attorney who I worked for, that he had a private detective agency, and one of his people, women, called him up, and she was told to commit suicide, and she did on the phone. She got the suggestion off the telephone and committed suicide. And so it's not hard to do. It's hard to prove because it's invisible. Now then, I want to go back to children being sent to psychiatrists when it's mind control and programming, and the medicine that they're given, which is so illegal. I mean,